Okay, so for our small group, I have for you an awesome self-esteem group. I love this group because it's specifically for boys. So you may be familiar with my Love Your Selfie group. If you've been in Impact for a while, I gave it to you guys earlier. It's my girls' self-esteem group, and this is kind of the boys' version. Now, I've had a few people reach out to me over the years and say things like, "Do you just have like a general, non-gender focused one?" And I probably should come up with one. I have some self-esteem resources that are, for anyone. But I do like doing these two groups separately, one for girls, one for boys, just because the nature of the group, especially when we talk about body image and stuff, I think it allows the students to feel more comfortable opening up with peers of the same gender. But let's go into why you should be using a self-esteem small group with boys. So it's often overlooked. A lot of times you'll see girls' self-esteem groups, right? Like girls' body image or girls doing positive affirmations, girls' self-esteem, girls' self-confidence. But a lot of times we don't talk about the boys' self-esteem or the boys' self-confidence. So that's why I created this group. It's also empowering, right? Like even if the boys who are recommended for the group don't realize or maybe they're not self-aware of their lacking self-esteem, they'll feel empowered as they go through these activities and work together. And it strengthens other areas. So as you see the group topics, it not only focuses on self-esteem, but there's some pieces about, feelings recognition, goal setting, things like that. So it's like a very well-rounded curriculum that will strengthen, the whole child. So here's a sneak peek of what it looks like in action. It's kind of a champions MVP theme. I love a good theme. And I have weekly outlines for you to keep it simple. So each week you'll have your ASCA Standards as well as an objective. Then I have the outline for you telling you what to do. So you're always going to start with those group rules and feelings check, followed by an icebreaker, then the core activity, and then you wrap it up with a journal. So each week kind of follows the same sequence. The only difference is during the first week and the last week, you'll also be doing those self-assessments. So like I said, we always start off with the group rules and a feelings check. So I love doing group rules. I include some in for you here that are just preloaded, but you could also type your own or have the kids come up with them. It's a lot of fun to get the kids on board. Like, what do you think our rules should be? And then I love doing a feelings check. So you'll get this included poster that you can hang up or just break out every time you're meeting, that the kids can point at how they're feeling. And of course, your feelings check is where you're going to model and say, how are you feeling and why? And those self-assessments. So we want to track data, right? So you can use pre and post self-assessments to track student progress. So each of these statements on the self-assessment mirrors one of the objectives of the week. So for example, there's one that says, I know what my inner coach is, or I know what a growth mindset is. Those are two topics that we're going to go over. So maybe at the beginning of the group, they don't know what those things are. Hopefully at the end of the group, they do know what those things are. And that shows that your group was effective, right? And they learned the objectives. So you want to be sure to measure this data. Self-assessments are super simple. Be sure to collect names and dates so then you can compare, the pre and post results. And for this one, I have weekly icebreakers. So I have all the icebreakers on one sheet for you. So you'll just keep this sheet in your folder. And then each week you'll just work your way down the list. And each one kind of coordinates to what that week's topic is. So for example, the first week is just all about introduction. So it's get to know you charades. So the students are going to take turns acting out something they like to do. And of course, they're not using words. And then the other students try to guess. So maybe they're acting out, oh, I like to play soccer, or I like to cook. And then there's a sides of the room activity. So for week 2, the students are going to have 2 choices and they have to choose which one they prefer and go to that side of the room. So for example, chocolate or vanilla. If you like chocolate, go to the right side. If you like vanilla, go to the left side. If they want to go to the middle, maybe it's a tie. So it's just kind of cool because it's describing, their personality. So you could even mix in some things that are like if you feel like you're shy or outgoing, or maybe you feel like you're quiet or loud, tall or short, oldest or youngest, just things like that. It's just a kind of fun way to get everyone to get to know each other and to develop that self-concept, which is the theme for that week. The next week's theme is self-esteem, so we start with the self-esteem dice game. Of course, this is included, so they're going to take turns rolling the self-esteem dice and answering questions. And then the game ends once all the questions have been answered, at least once. So if a different kid rolls the same question, then that's fine because they'll have a different answer. And then for the next week, Same thing, a dice game, but this time the topic is on feelings. So they're going to take turns rolling the die and talking about their feelings. Then we focus on growth mindset. So there's a growth mindset sort. So they're going to have cards. They have to sort them into 2 piles to show the difference of examples of a growth mindset and then things that are not a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, right? And this is cool because it's the icebreaker. So they may not know what a growth mindset is yet. So they may just kind of be guessing and they may get something's wrong, and then you can talk about the difference. And then that's kind of how this weekly session starts. The next week is about the inner coach. So students are going to sort the cards into piles, things that an inner coach would say and things the inner coach would not say. So again, an inner coach, they maybe have never heard this term before, likely no, but it is like that self-talk, that little voice in your head that's encouraging you. Then for week 7, body image dice game. So body image is the focus of this week. So they're going to, again, take turns rolling that die and answering all the questions. I love, as you can tell, a discussion die because it's just such an easy, fun way to get students talking. And I like a couple options. So the ones I give for you are paper, so you can just easily assemble them. If you use a little thicker paper, it works a little better. But, sometimes these get kind of crunchy and you have to remake them if you do the same group later. But I've seen where people will buy, like on Amazon or something, these cubes with the clear plastic sides, and then they'll just cut out the die that I give you and put it in the sides and then roll the cube. So that's a cool way to reuse them. And lastly is the Me in 10 Years Guess Who game. I love this game. So the kids are going to take a few minutes to write on a card what they think their life will look like in 10 years. So maybe they're in college, or maybe they have a job, or maybe they're in the military, or maybe they have a pet, or maybe, I don't know. They have their own car, or something like that. So they're going to write that down. And then we're going to scramble them up, and then you're going to read them aloud. So they're anonymous, and you're going to say like, oh, so-and-so, has this job and this car. And then the group's going to try to guess who it is. So it's kind of a fun way for them to share their goals, but without feeling like embarrassed. Okay, then let's dive into what each week is all about. So week 1 is the introduction. It doesn't have a lot of materials for week 1 because this is a lot of like action-based things. So what they're going to do is first up the charade. So I kind of have an image of that on the left-hand side. And then you're going to partner up the kids. So, put them in pairs and they're going to interview their partner and ask them their favorite animal, food, and song. And then they have to remember it because then you're going to ask them to introduce each other. So this is a good way to practice those listening skills, cooperation skills, and just getting to know you skills to kind of loosen everyone up. So instead of presenting this information about themselves, they're going to have to present it about a partner. Week 2 is all about self-concept. So followed by the icebreaker, they're going to do this Who Am I worksheet. So that's where they're just filling out who they are and they're really thinking, like some things are easy answers, right? Like, their name, their age, their grade level. But then, their family members. But they can write things that are important to them. They can draw self-portrait. So these can be really telling. And then you can have the kids present these to the class. So here's that week 3 icebreaker dice, an example of what that would look like. So it's asking questions about describing themselves, things they're grateful for, their proudest moment, what they want to learn how to do, all these self-esteem based questions. And then for the core activity, it is a Mad Lib type game. So I love this. They're going to write in, using this one sheet, fill in the blanks and then read it. So for example, name a positive adjective to describe someone. And they're going to do this by interviewing each other. So they don't know that they're writing about themselves, which makes it kind of fun. So you would ask a partner like, okay, name a positive adjective to describe someone. And the partner would say, kind. And then name another positive adjective to describe someone, happy. Okay, and then what's something you like to do? And they would say, dance. And then the next question, what's something else you like to do? Play soccer. So for example, it would say like, I am kind and happy. I am great at dancing and playing soccer. So they get to read it later, but they don't realize it's about themselves. So I love this activity. It's a really cool way to build self-esteem. They think they're kind of just like answering these questions, but then they get to read this cool poem about themselves and it ends with, I love myself. So week 4 is all about the feelings. So for this one, after the icebreaker, the main activity is Pictionary. So you can use like an easel with butcher paper, or you can just do it on the whiteboard. But you're going to have the kids write, Pictionary. So they're going to draw these out while the other kids try to guess what they are. So they'll try to draw a picture of being joyful. So maybe they'll draw like a stick person looking really happy. or silly. But some of these are harder, like thankful or disappointed. They're kind of hard to draw. So they're going to have to get creative, and the other group members are going to guess. So it ends up being a lot of fun. Week 5 is all about growth mindset. So here's that icebreaker. That's the growth mindset sort. So they'll see these cards, things that say things like your brain is like a muscle. That's an example of a growth mindset. But people are born smart. That would be an example of a fixed mindset, because remember, a growth mindset thinks that your brain is malleable and you can get smarter. I like a challenge, or when I practice, I see great results. Those are examples of a growth mindset. But things like, I made a mistake, so I should give up, or I'm not good at math. Those are examples of things that are not a growth mindset. And then they do this growth mindset flip book. So they're going to, under each tab, write what they think a growth mindset is. Now that you've discussed it, what does it look like? What do people with a growth mindset say? So maybe they can, copy some of those cards from earlier. What do people without a growth mindset say? Same thing. How can you have a growth mindset? So it's kind of like a reflective piece. Week 6 is all about the inner coach. So again, they're doing a similar type sort. So there's cards that say things like you should just quit, or you're never going to get it, no one likes you. Those are things an inner coach would not say. Those are those negative thoughts. But then an inner coach would be encouraging and say things like, you can do it, keep trying, you are strong and smart, great idea, it's okay, you'll get it next time. So we want them to sort those. And then they're going to write their own coach cards. So this is really cool. They can either paste the colored pictures on or color in the coach, and then they can write their own coach cards to kind of encourage themselves. So they can do two things. They can either keep these for themselves to remind themselves when they're having like a bad day, or when they catch themselves using those negative thoughts, or they can pass them to their group mates, and that's a really cool exercise as well. Week 7, positive body image. So for this one, you start with that discussion die, and that's really powerful. Hopefully by week 7, they have the rapport and the trust in the group where they feel comfortable talking about this. That's why I saved this topic till kind of the end, because you're going to be saying things like, what's your least favorite body part and why? Has anyone ever made fun of the way you look? So remind the kids of confidentiality, encourage them to be really transparent, open, and honest. And I think they'll really get a lot out of this exercise. And then powerful body parts. Talk about how their body is strong and what can it do to help them. So, how does their head help them? Well, they have a brain that helps them think and make good decisions. How do their feet help them? Well, their feet help them run, and they love, to run track or whatever their thing is, right? So they're going to point to different parts of their body and talk about why they love them and how those body parts help them. And week 8, goal setting. So again, that's the icebreaker. Those are those me in 10 years cards. And then they're going to create this cool little, it's like Olympic themed, MVP themed goal setting thing. So they're going to write 3 goals on here, their top 3 goals that they want to work on, and they're going to put them under the flaps of these gold medals. And each week, in addition to, you have your icebreaker and your activity, there is a weekly journal prompt. So for example, here's an example of the week 7 body image one, and it says, do you like your body? What would you change about it? And then they can, write and be transparent here. So maybe on the journal, they may feel a little more comfortable opening up than in-person conversation, and that's fine, because the journal is just for them and for you to read. I hope your boys love the self-esteem group and really get a lot out of it.